So I think that when people are starting out, the first question is, if this were sold in a store, on a shelf, on a table, would it need to be inside of something? If the answer is yes, then you need to think about it with your product. When you start making your product, you have to also be thinking about your packaging.
What if your sourcing agent lived in your browser? Meet Axio, Alibaba's AI-powered sourcing engine that understands what you need, matches you with pre-vetted suppliers, analyzes trends, and even helps with compliance. Want to test for a special certification or create custom specs? Axio handles that as well. As the sourcing gals, we've used it to cut sourcing time from weeks to minutes. And with our code, The Sourcing Gals, you get 10% off your monthly subscription. If you're launching or scaling a product-based business, this tool changes the game. Try Axio with our code today. Link is in the show notes.
Do you have a brilliant product idea but don't know where to start to get it made? Or are you looking to level up your product but afraid to take it overseas?
If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erin, and we are
The Sourcing Gals,
your trusted guides to everything you need to know about sourcing, manufacturing, and scaling your product overseas. Whether you are just starting out or you've been making your own product for a while, we are here to help women source products overseas without the overwhelm.
In each episode, we'll share insider tips, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories to help you source more effectively, save time, and boost your profits. Duh! We know how hard it can be to juggle the ins and outs of product development, but don't worry, we've got your back.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into how you can grow your business,
make more money,
and turn your products into profit. Welcome to The
Sourcing Gals. Now let's get started. High five.
Hi. Welcome to another episode of
The Sourcing Gals.
Well, Jackie, I will say I love your little jacket.
Thanks. I made it. I have a group of girlfriends who I've always been envious of because the first Tuesday of every month, they get together and sew. And before, when I worked my corporate job, it was really hard to take a Tuesday off and go sew.
Of course.
But now that I'm a free agent, I have been sewing the first Tuesday of every month with my friends. And so, yeah, this was my little quilt coat.
And it's like,
I made.
It's a great work too. I see a little double needle stitch on your neck.
I know. Can you, my friends were like, Jackie, I'm like, I know. Look, I had time to actually top stitch something. I know. So it's fun. Might be a little overwhelming here on the screen, but it's really cozy. And so the weather's starting to change. So I'm all about my quilt coats. I think I've made 4 now.
I like to say that I sew if I absolutely have to. I don't enjoy it.
Oh, that's interesting.
But
I don't think I knew that about you.
I'm capable of doing it.
I knew you were capable. I didn't know that you didn't enjoy it though.
I don't enjoy it.
Okay.
But I am very capable of it. So when I find something that I really like, but I can't, where I have an idea, but I can't find it out there in the market, I'll make it for myself. And I swear every second of the way that I'm never going to sew again. And then again, I do it again.
Well, it's good that you know how to do it. But no, I thoroughly enjoy it. But I enjoy it when I can actually like I started and finished this jacket in one day. Like those are my projects.
Right.
Most of them are still on a pile on my floor in my sewing room. But when I can get it done and then actually wear it and enjoy it.
Well, glad you get to debut it here on The Sourcing Gals.
Thank you.
Today, just like what you're wrapped in, today we're talking packaging.
Oh, I love that. Great segue, Erin.
And I think that we wanted to bring it to the podcast because we had a few people in our Smarter Sourcing course who came to the table and said, okay, how does packaging play a role in what I'm making?
Correct.
And the answer, like so many answers we give here, is and it depends. For a lot of things that people make, packaging is not first to mind.
Yeah. And it could be, what bag am I going to ship it in? Like what poly mailer bag that they're going to get, like an Amazon bag, right? Or maybe it's some branding marketing materials or a tissue paper, right? Which is very different than what we're talking about.
Right.
We're talking about packaging where it is the vehicle in which the product is shown, displayed, arrives to you as a customer, whether that's e-commerce or especially when it's brick and mortar. So that packaging can be really critical to representing that product in the most clear, effective way.
Absolutely. So I think that when people are starting out, the first question is, if this were sold in a store, on a shelf, on a table, would it need to be inside of something? If the answer is yes, then you need to think about it with your product. When you start making your product, you have to also be thinking about your packaging. Let's take the example of jewelry. Since I've spent the last several years of my career in jewelry, and it's like a really common thing that people like get into the product-based business with. If you have, a pair of earrings, they're obviously not going to sit loose somewhere. They have a partner. They need to be packaged together. So you'd be thinking about an earring card. But let's take it one step further. What if you have a charm bracelet and people are going to be choosing their charms in store, or people are going to be buying bundles of charms? Like, that takes you one step further. What does that look like? If you think about going into any brick and mortar store that you go into that is selling things like that, you immediately start to realize what a big deal it is that things be packaged in a way that is very clear to the customer, that is easy on the store, and that just showcases your product in the best possible light.
Yeah. And I think when you think about brick and mortar, a retail store, you need to understand that real estate matters. And what I mean by that is the amount of space your product takes up matters. I mean, in a grocery store, they charge you, I believe, because I hear this on Shark Tank. Again, I'm not in the CPG world, but I hear that they charge the vendors money.
Like how much space they're taking
for
up?
how much space they literally rent the shelf space sometimes. And so there can actually be a cost associated with your shelf space. So again, that's not necessarily the case at like a Target per se, but you have to understand that as the Target buyer, she only has so much space that she's accountable for.
Right.
And she needs to make the most dollars out of her space that she can. So if your packaging is taking up half of her shelf space and she can only fit 1 or 2 units out because it's so deep and it's so wide, those are things you just have to be aware of. And if there's creative ways to package it that helps shrink the item or really contains it well so that it can either be stacked back to back to back on a shelf or hung off of like a little, we call them a clip strip, like hung off the side of some of the retail fixtures, or if it's something that maybe even needs to be in a floor display of sorts, which you see in a lot of stores these days, really cool, fun, elaborate, corrugate cardboard displays. Like all of those things you have to think of if you are thinking that your product is meant for a storefront. And that could even be a boutique.
And sometimes more so in a boutique because they don't have the other resources to use. They maybe don't have, whereas if you go to Target, they're going to have pegs for your earring cards already,
Correct.
but like a boutique might not. So you need to think about what they have. And I think that step one would always be going to a store you envision your product in, looking at a product that's similar to yours.
I love that.
And just taking notes.
Yeah, 100%. We were talking with a product-based founder actually this morning about this, right? They are going into a store of sorts that does not have retail-ready displays. They do not have existing pegs to hang their product on. So they are not only having to add packaging to their existing product, which they did have, they now have to actually give the display to the store to say, here's how you're going to showcase our product, which I could see also in the boutique side of the world. That may be something that needs to be discussed, right? Or, and I think it also, as you're thinking about pitching these retailers or when you do decide to go to market, you need to understand what their landscape looks like.
Yeah.
A Target or a Von Maur is very different from each other.
Oh, yeah.
A Target and a Nordstrom's, all those different stores and the fixtures that they have so that when you're talking to them, when you're trying to ideate, you're thinking already like a buyer. You're thinking, I need to show them how my product is going to work in their store, or I'm going to show them how it's going to work on their shelves, right? It's like, think like them. How do you make their lives easier to imagine your product on display?
Correct. If you go into a retailer and all of their jewelry are on cards that are on pegs, that's what they have across the board. And then you show up with something in a box that's supposed to go on a table, like that
Yeah.
They might just be like, oh no, we don't have the space for that. Which has happened to me before.
Yeah.
With people I've worked with. But let's take it like one step further. Let's say you were doing like a toy. You were in the kids space and you have a plastic cement mixer with like little people. Making this up because I have a 4-year-old son and that sounds like something he would buy. All of those things need packaged together. They need to be put in a box. You need to see the product and the box needs to be the size that can fit on its shelf. So we say all of this not to just overwhelm you, but because when you are building your product, these things should be taken into consideration.
Yes.
If you are going to ideate, let's go back to the charm bracelet. If you're going to ideate a charm bracelet and you're like, and it's going to come with 25 charms. Okay. How are you packaging that? How are you selling that? How does that put itself into a consumable package?
And I think one step further to that is packaging it in a way where the consumer knows exactly what it is.
Exactly.
Like go back to your cement truck mixer. When you think about a toy, you can probably all imagine if you close your eyes, what the box would look like. You'd be able to go through and touch the plastic cement. There'd be a window cut out in the front, and then each person in piece would be,
tied to the
tied to the bag, to the back of the box where you can see them though. You can clearly see what you are getting. So
they don't do that just to frustrate you when you're opening it. They don't. They do it because A, you need to be able to see all the pieces and parts. And B, it needs to be secure enough that that person putting it out on the shelf is not losing pieces and parts when they're putting it out.
Because guess what? That came from China in a box on a boat for 45 to 60 days, then moved to a warehouse and then got touched and sent right to stores and then opened. I mean, you got to think about every single step that your packaging has to go through. So that's another thing too, to make sure that your packaging is going to be protected, right? We sometimes would work with our factories and say, hey, we want to make sure that you use a double walled corrugate, which means like an extra strong corrugate, because all of a sudden boxes get very dented in transit. It just happens. When you're in the apparel space, no big deal, right? Like that's not going to matter to you. But if you have an item where that box is super important, you want to make sure your factory, one, has shipped something in a box before, and two, that the box that they're shipping it in is strong enough to withhold it being stacked on a boat again for 45 to 60 days and being handled by FedEx, UPS, all the people that are going to touch that box, so that when they open it up at a Target or a boutique, those inner boxes, that display that you want out there is going to still be preserved.
Great shape.
Yeah, in great shape and preserved.
And I think that this feels like it's jumping ahead a bit, and it is in some ways. If you are starting out on e-commerce, this may not be a consideration for you.
Totally.
I think that it should be a consideration for the product, however, if you intend at some point to go into a wholesale environment.
Yeah.
So one of our course students has a product like this, where maybe it doesn't go to wholesale right away, but we talked about how if she made it this big, then it's never going to fit actually on those shelves, even in the future.
Correct.
And so preparing the product now for something that could be packaged when that time comes is smart.
And what is the e-commerce customer experience? How do you want that to feel and look versus the store experience? Sometimes it's the exact same, and sometimes it doesn't have to be. So if you can save your cost and not have to have that fancy box package, this, that, and the other, because you can put it in a beautiful bag, like go back to jewelry, right? It may be in a Target, you're going to actually have to have it in a box, a gift box, and sitting on a table or stacked on a table, whatnot. But for e-commerce, you can put it in a great, beautiful drawstring little velvet bag and go in a small envelope and get right to the customer.
Right.
And like, that's all you need to do.
Or even that brand we were looking at online a couple weeks ago with the beautiful dolls.
Yes.
And they were sent in this like really beautiful organza bag.
Yes.
For e-com.
Yes.
Now that would be a different story if you were in a retailer, but that's okay.
Yep.
You just need to be able to think down that path without having to go down it yet.
Yeah, because it will affect your cost. It will affect your freight. This is the other thing that people don't always think about, especially if you're not, used to shipping product from overseas. The size of your item, if you are putting something on a boat, the size of your item is what matters, not the weight. It's more about the dimensional space of it. So you have to think about the most effective way to package that product is going to save you the most money in the long run.
And I'll talk about something we did at a brand that I worked at for a while is that what was shipping from China was actually really small. And we were putting them into these larger boxes for like an advent type thing. What we ended up doing is shipping all the boxes to us flat packed, shipping all the jewelry separate. And then we had a warehouse at 3PL in the USA, put them together. Now that's something that you would do if you had a lot of units, or, if it was going to be very expensive. So there are options, of course, but really what you'd want if you're shipping to a retailer is the least amount of touches.
Correct.
The least amount of touch points.
Correct. And you run the math on it, right? So I'd be curious to see, I'm sure your team did this, but the freight savings to have that box be flat packed and the jewelry to be able to be shrink wrapped all together really tightly versus the manual labor to then put each one in the box and open up, right? Like you run the math on it and you see, and maybe sometimes it is definitely, it could be cheaper to do that. And then sometimes we've had opportunities or projects that we've worked on where it actually made more sense for the factory to ship. I mean, imagine these floor displays. Like I mentioned, we used to do a lot of that at my old company where we would make a corrugate, a cardboard floor display packed with apparel. And, sometimes it actually made sense to have the factory put it together and ship the whole thing versus have our distribution center touch it and pop it up and then ship it domestically that way. So again, I just say, do the math, do the exercise and see what makes the most sense. Know that there's a couple ways to get there, but that size matters, whether it's shipping, whether it's display space that it's taking up, but also that packaging, the messaging on the packaging, it's an extension of your brand. It's an extension of your product. So you really want to make sure that it is clearly telling the consumer what it is you're selling.
Yeah. And I think that is a hard thing for someone starting out to wrap their heads around, because the person who's designing the packaging, that's like a very specific skill set. And then how to put the brand on it and all of those things kind of incorporate multiple different people, whether it's local or overseas or what have you. It's worked out best for me when I have someone overseas who works with my factory, who my factory already has a relationship with, who sends me the general dimensions and the die lines, we say. So the outlines of the box. I send those to a graphic designer who's more local, and I say, here's kind of what we want it to look like. Here's the general brand design. And then they mock that up, and then we send that art over to so it's a separate packaging person and a separate art person, and you're combining their talents together.
And I would say personally, if you are someone who is looking to eventually get to retail, I love a good hack. I would not hack your own packaging.
No, I wouldn't.
I would
Never.
hire a designer, a graphic designer who specializes in packaging, because it is a different beast. It's 3-dimensional. You want to make sure, again, that they're understanding that retail mindset of this has to appeal to the customer. This has to clearly say what my product is. If it's something that it's inside a box, right? That is one thing that I would not hack my way through. However, to save yourself time, effort, money, all the things, do exactly what Erin said. Figure out what the best size is. And you can also lean on your factory for this. Hey, this is my product. What would you suggest? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be putting this item in the box, right? So they're going to help you say, you can run it this way, length with height. You can run it this way with it, right? They can give you those options to at least narrow it down, and then go to that packaging designer and say, okay, great. Here's where I think I want to go, get their opinion, but then let them do the design work once you've maybe narrowed it down a little bit more. So just again, to save a little bit of back and forth there.
Yeah. So we're going to say, do your research, go to the stores you envision your brand in, take pictures, look at how big things are, look at how much space it takes up. Obviously, if we use the example of the doll we were talking about earlier, you're not going to fold a doll over on herself and lay her down in a box. You're going to stand her up.
Yep.
She's going to look cute and, approachable. And then you're going to take that information to your packaging designer, say, I want something like this. And then, you're going to have a graphic designer and all of that stuff. But I think that you're so right, Jackie, that in the realm of things like splurge save, this is an area where I'd be get the experts in here.
Yep. And I think you might be surprised. One of the woman who was going through our course, we were talking about packaging a lot. she was actually over budgeting what her packaging was going to cost.
Oh yeah, by quite a lot.
And once we started looking into it and actually pulling up some examples, and now with packaging, there will be some minimums. So there is that, you'll have to ask your factory. Some factories have really great partnerships. Most all factories, to be honest, have a packaging partner that they work with. So they probably won't make your packaging in-house, but they have someone that they are going to go work with. So you don't have to go find the person.
Right. Like if you're at a toy factory,
they're going to have a box supplier
have they've used
that can do the cellophane window and all the things that you want, right? So I think understanding those minimums will be important, but you might be happily surprised that it's not actually as expensive as you were once thinking that packaging might be. So there could even be some savings there from your original, work that you had done on your margin and what the cost would be.
Yeah. And then I think that something that surprised me a lot packaging wise in this industry is the stores that required you to send things in like purchase ready packaging. I don't know. There's a name for it. It's like, oh gosh, it's an acronym.
Oh yeah. Well, yes, like a PDQ or PDQ, we call them shippers too. Like that's like the core.
Well, no, I'm thinking of like, we did a project for Aldi one time and then for Costco, and you have to ship those things in a package that will then go on their floor.
Yes, that is a PDQ.
Yeah.
It's a PDQ.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. So that was quite a journey. But same thing. What I did for that Aldi project, we had no clue. We had never done a project for Aldi before. We were trying to ship jewelry from China to Aldi stores in a box that all they have to do is take the front off.
Yep.
And be like, ta-da. So I went to an Aldi store. I looked in there. They didn't have any jewelry at the time. I found an other box that was like generally similar. I asked the people at Aldi, can I have this box? They said, yeah, okay. I took the box home. I laid it out on my floor. I took a picture of it and I sent it to the packaging people. And I said, this is what our idea is. This is what we need. It needs to have pegs on the inside. Each peg needs to hold 5 pieces of jewelry, and it needs to have 20 pegs or something like that.
Yeah.
And we did it. We got it together. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of back and forth, but it was workable and we figured it out. And I mentioned that because that was totally new to me. And I really took the factory and my own intuition and Aldi. We had to take a picture and send it back to Aldi and be like, is this what you guys are thinking?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we actually need it to be more like X.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of going around, but we got there.
Yeah.
So just asking the people around you for help, asking for other people's expertise. And then if you really need to, there are certainly companies that excel at this. Packaging companies that will do it all for you for a pretty penny, but might be worth it.
Yeah. So that was your 101 on packaging.
Packaging 101.
That was a lot.
Well, it's more like a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people get into this world and they're like, should I be thinking about this from the get-go?
Yes.
And it's like, maybe.
Yeah. But then again, to the other side of that coin, if you're not there yet and you don't think your product is going to be
in a wholesale environment,
like don't worry
about it.
You know, we always love a good buffer in our pricing, in our costing. So if you're not sure, put a little buffer, put a little 50-cent buffer in there to say, you know what, I'm going to just park this in my cost to say maybe one day if I do want to add packaging, I don't have to actually change my retail because of it. Right? Because
that would suck.
To not have your e-commerce be a different price than your brick and mortar retail. Usually it's the other way around. Your retail price would be lower than your e-commerce business to be e-commerce retail, to be honest. So, maybe earmark a little budget in there, do some research to see how, again, depending on the size of your item, what it is, how much could packaging cost me? Go do some research, get on Alibaba, start looking up some quotes for things. And then at least hey, if one day this makes sense and this amazing opportunity comes in ahead of me, I know I need 25 cents, 50 cents, $1, whatever that looks like to have in this item. So maybe I just add that in now and I bank it in the meantime, take it as margin in the meantime.
Perfect.
So that's all I got.
That's our answer.
Tapped out here.
It's a whole world. And I think that it's one of those things that you can get really, really wrapped up in and you can start worrying a lot about. And I think our advice is just like, don't go that far down the path until you have to, but just know that you might have to.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's very cool. There are people who totally geek out on it. I'm not one of them, but I certainly can understand and love great packaging.
Yeah, agree. And the importance of it for showcasing your product. Like that is my biggest thing, is that making sure, and that's where I say, don't, it's not worth the hack. You want to make sure that if your product is actually getting out to a store, whether that's a boutique, a big box retailer, that man, it shines.
Oh yeah.
That you can tell what it is, exactly who it's for. So, yeah, hopefully we've given you a lot of things to think about when it comes to packaging and your product idea. And like I said, do your research, do your homework. Like we always say, like that's step one, right? Is know your landscape, know your who you're up against, know where it's going to be sitting, how it's going to be, how it could be. I think that's just going to get those ideas going in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're selling a dog leash, go to the store.
Yeah.
They're going to be on a loop with a peg hole at the top. Like you don't have to put them in a gold box.
Yeah, 100%. Unless you want.
Amazing. So that's all the time we have for today. I have something very important though, before we go.
Okay.
I would like, if you listen to this on Apple and you would like to leave us a 5-star review, we'd love it. You guys know, you hear podcasters talk all the time about what reviews do for their brands. And so of course, we would love to take any kind words you have for us and for the podcast, and in the form of stars.
Yeah. And you were just looking the other day and you're like, Jackie, we have 5-star reviews and we don't even know these people. And
I know.
That's so cool.
They're not even our mothers.
They're not our friends.
It's so funny. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been exciting. We're excited to keep doing this and keep sharing our knowledge.
Well, because I think that we have both talked about this, that the knowledge we share and the knowledge that we have, that we want to put out there in the world, is like very unique in terms of overseas product manufacturing for retail brands. Like it's very niche. There isn't anyone else like us. And so we really want to reach as many people as we can. And the way to do that is to get good reviews. So then the people who run these programs can like shoot us right out to the people who need to hear us.
Yes. Amazing. Well, for those that have left reviews, we appreciate you. And for those that hopefully will start to or plan to, thank you in advance.
Should we start doing call outs?
Oh, I like that. Okay. Yes. I like that. Okay. Next episode, we're going to do some call outs.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Done. Okay.
Shout outs. Also in the same realm of shout outs, on the same topic of shout outs, we are going to start doing some Ask Us Anything episodes. So if you have questions for us, please leave us a DM on Instagram, or you can always email at hello@thesourcinggals.com. And we also have contact pages on our website, thesourcinggals.com. So you have many ways to contact us. We are so excited to hear your questions. That's all we got for today, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Time to go get some stuff done now.
Time to eat some lunch.
Yeah, let's eat some lunch.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of
The Sourcing Gals.